Well, meet management has done a fine job of keeping the meet on time. We had, I think, only one false start during the lane races, which is great.
When you're talking about, will it be a, sit and kick, come down to the last 1,000 meters. If you're looking for one athlete who could really push the pace and it's advantageous for it, to be honest, that is Bradley McIvire of South Carolina.
And they are off in the men's 10,000 meters, 20 entries. Looks like about 6 or 7 in that second alley on the outside. And they will stay out there until they complete this first turn, and then they'll break for the pole.
And the reason I say that about McIvire, who has hip number 20 in the dark uniform there in about the middle of the field, that's because his coach, Brock Moreau, said that the heat really plays into his favor. It'll be 85 degrees, and he might still have his warm-up jacket on before he goes out to the track, so they really hope that it's not too slow early. He's not necessarily the fastest in the field, not as fast as Victor Kiprop, Patrick Kiprop, but he has a really big engine, so it's going to be exciting to see what he can do among this field, just getting in here and mixing things up after transferring from Tulane now at South Carolina.
Well, you can see that it's going very slowly, which is fine, except for the part where there's 20 guys on the track in a very small area, and everybody's got to have a place for their feet to go down. So this always creates a potential problem until someone strings out the pace.
Especially when you have some of the taller guys in the field, Patrick Kiprop, Victor Kiprop. There's some of those who don't want to risk getting tangled up because of having, the longer strides that they do. And when I was talking to a number of the coaches, they're like, this is just one you see who survives it, because all of these guys have had a heck of a year. Going back to, of course, for Arkansas, a podium finish in cross country at the NCAA championships. That elite 5,000 meter field that we saw at the NCAA indoor championships. So they have been, going up, battling against one another back to October. A ton of variables that you have when you get to, middle of May into June when you have the championship season.
Karami Yego is the one that is setting this early blistering pace with Austin Pumplewell of Missouri, the junior, right there in the all yellow right on his shoulder. And a lot of Arkansas up there in the front.
Are you surprised?
Not at all.
This is a huge event for them. If they are going to position themselves to be in the conversation going into Saturday for a team title with that on the line, they're going to have to load some of the points in this event. They're very balanced. They have a lot of scoring opportunities, but this is one that's really significant for them. And what's interesting about kind of seeing right now, Yego up there up front, those first 2 laps, 77.8, 77.8, 78.6, is Yego doesn't mind being up there. We kind of saw him indoors, but then when he gets fed up, he starts gesturing and commanding everyone to get up there and share some of the workload up front. In Chris Bucknam, talking with him earlier today about Karami Yego, who was really exciting to watch during the indoor season. Of course, coming into the University of Arkansas, he said that we're not sure how aggressive he will be, but we need to score the points. So we're just going to have to see how the race develops. He wants this race to just really be organic. And I said, Yego seems to me like a guy who, no matter how much he's hurting or what he's battling through from the injury standpoint, you would have to restrain him to keep him off the track and out of a racing opportunity. He said it is certainly difficult to hold this guy back, and you are exactly right with that analogy, as you have Arkansas with a whole host up there up front, and you can see that Victor Kiprop is fine to just hang back in the pack and let the rest of the field pull him along.
5 of the top 7 currently are Arkansas Razorbacks, with Yego continuing to lead over Popplewell. That is Shearer of Arkansas there in 3rd, with, or I should say Richter is in 3rd, Shearer is in 4th, and then Patrick Kiprop currently 5th.
They have picked up the pace ever so slightly, just below 75 seconds for that last 400 through 1,000 meters, 3:15. And now you can see, okay, That is Patrick Kiprop going over to the backstretch to grab a little water, I believe. Try to cool things off. You mentioned how much of a factor the heat is. Current pace for them, 32:09. So very comfortable, a pedestrian start through the first 1,000 meters, given the talent that you have of this field. And Diego has been up there up front the entire time.
That's Eric Casares of Texas A&M, the senior there in the gray top for A&M. Oftentimes up in the mix in these distance races, but otherwise, he and Popplewell, it is all Arkansas up front, as we now see McIntyre working his way up. He's in lane number 2, running a little extra distance there, but staying out of trouble.
Right at 75 seconds, so they've been really consistent for those back-to-back 400, 74.9 and 75 seconds. They are at 5:06.5 through 1,600 meters. While we have a look at this entire field, I want to point out Yassin Abdallah of the University of Tennessee. He has the white jersey, the orange shorts, and the only thing as ferocious as the sun are the bright pink spikes that you see that a lot of these guys have as they're grabbing some of the water on the backstretch. But Yassin is not only entered in the 10,000, he's also entered in the 1,500, but the 10K is very much the focus. He won the seeded heat indoors of the 3,000 with that sit and kick kind of approach. But one thing that's interesting about Yassin Abdallah, he's a really cool character. He has a YouTube platform which chronicles his life, his career, his training, his aspirations of making an Olympic team. And he was talking about his background. His parents are immigrants from Sudan, and the family, when he was young, was split across the country. He and his siblings were with his dad in Maryland while his dad was working. His mom was in dental school in Southern California, and she would commute back and forth. So he really attributes a lot of his work ethic to his parents.
Abdallah sort of in the middle of the pack, 9th or 10th, and staying out of trouble by being in 2nd place. Right behind you can see there is Bradley McIntyre with a 20 on his shorts, staying out of trouble, but the price he pays is that he runs a little extra distance in order to do so. There is McIntyre. Spent a lot of time in lane 2 for most of this race, as that pace just has slowed again to 76.2 the last 400 meters.
I think you're going to see this pack stay pretty tight for the majority of the race. We were kind of curious how it would play out, and you do feel like that this is, until somebody really gets an urge to shake things up, this is likely what you're going to see through the majority. So probably not going to threaten, the meet records or any of those things, but it's really important to emphasize it's all about the team. It's all about the points. It's about racing well and racing tactically, as not only do you have the implications from a scoring standpoint, but a lot of these athletes will come back in the 5,000. Yassin Abdallah is planning to run the 1,500 tomorrow.
And also these athletes, many of them, most of them, will run another 10,000 in 2 weeks at regionals. And those who get through will run another 10,000 2 weeks later at the NCAA championships.
That's Miles Richter that you saw. Oh, he fumbled the water. He was going for it. Somebody get him. Yeah, he's signaling for it. We got to get Miles a beverage out there. He is so important to Arkansas and their team hopes. A 7-time SEC scorer. He was 4th in this event last year. Really an incredible kind of, glue guy of holding everything together and certainly helping out, trading off the lead, letting his teammate Karami Diego have a little break from those lead duties. But he is one of those who does a great job of putting himself into the thick of these racing opportunities. Pace now dipped below 31.50, currently on about a 31.48 pace. We'll see what this most recent lap was with the two Hogs going 1 and 2 right now.
Richter, a 7-time SEC scorer, so very utilitarian for the Hogs as he now takes over the pacing duties, and you can certainly see the pace picking up with him in the lead. Now 3 Razorbacks, 1, 2, 3 with Popplewell right there of Missouri still in the mix. Diego has dropped back, now getting some water.
Can he share it with Miles? Like, you help your teammate who fumbled his water earlier.
Yeah, he just threw it in his face. I think that's what he was looking for.
Also there up front, kind of in that thick of it, we have seen Jacob McLeod of Arkansas running really well, a 4-time SEC scorer, and actually competed in the steeplechase at the SEC Championships outdoors last year. So he's gone back and forth between running the 10K. He was 7th in this event in 22, ran the steeplechase last year, so really versatile at the distances for Chris Bucknam's program. 74.6 that last lap, so starting to quicken ever so slightly as we have seen Richter jump up front.
He's quickened the pace enough that everyone is actually running in lane 1.
Now we are below 71 seconds, 70.5 for that last 400.
All right. Well, I think this is what we're going to be seeing happening for a little bit while, so we'll step aside for a moment and go back to Dan for a little bit of men's javelin, which was the final today.
Well, I think the javelin got started here, guys. Just still the sun is beating down on this facility, but this is Abraham Sargent, the senior from Florida. The transfer from Oral Roberts University. He was 2nd at the Florida Relays this year, 3rd in the Summit League last year, and he got 2:46.5 in the 6th round, and that would move him up into podium position. And here we see the national leader. This is Mark Minichiello, the only javelin thrower in the country who's thrown over 80 meters, 262 feet. We don't see it land there, but here in the 6th round, he saved his best throw for last, 255.7. He's the NCAA champion of 2022 while at Penn. And this is Will Lawrence, the LSU junior. This will be his 6th attempt throw. He's a transfer from Wisconsin-Platteville. He won the NCAA Division III title last year and was runner-up in 2022, and he go 2:44.8, and that would be good enough for a 3rd place finish. But there you see the SEC champion and the NCAA defending champion, Mark Minichiello of Georgia, 255 feet, 7 inches. There's your top 3.
All right, back to the men's 10,000 meters. And that is Miles Richter of Arkansas, still leading over his teammate, Karani Yago. Austin Popplewell of Missouri in the all-yellow. They're in on the rail in 3rd place. The tall Arkansas Razorback, Patrick Kiprop, the senior. And now into the mix for real is Bradley McIvire from Zimbabwe and South Carolina. He has worked himself into sort of equal 4th after spending a lot of time in the back of the pack and running probably the first 6 or 7 laps in lane number 2.
Through 4K at 12:26.7. They had settled into pretty consistent 70.5s, slowed ever so slightly, just under 73 seconds for that last most recent 400. Hey, you pointed out Patrick Kiprop, and in talking to a number of the coaches across the conference, they just consider him a warrior at these conference meets because of how versatile he's able to be, the willingness that he has to jump into a lot of different events. And I think that Bradley McIvire has done a really good job of positioning himself into the thick of this race. He ran 28:29 at the Raleigh Relays, a winter transfer, so still relatively new to that South Carolina program. Really interesting athlete who Brock Moreau was so familiar with because he knew him when Bradley was competing at Southeastern Louisiana, and Brock was previously coaching at New Orleans. So kind of an interesting guy who he really wanted to draw to South Carolina and have as part of the program, and has certainly, you know, made a mark and made an impact early, and now looking to be a threat for an SEC 10K title. While we have kind of a look at the field, pointing out the 2 athletes from Alabama, we've of course talked about Victor Kiprop, but also one to watch, his teammate Dennis Kipruto, right up there as well. He's got that hip number 18, thanks to our great work by our production crew for kind of identifying those 2 guys. Coach Dan Waters told me Kipruto ran that 28:44 off of just about 2 weeks of training and has been gaining strength ever since. He had an Achilles injury indoors, so that's why he was kind of limited in his racing prior to having that opportunity to run at the Brian Clay Invitational when he ran that time, but continues to just get better and better over the course of this outdoor season. And who better to have along for the ride than Victor Kiprop, who he's running right with. That most recent 400 was right at 73 flat.
Those kudos go to our director, Jim Carr, who keeps us honest and zeroes in on those athletes and their numbers so we know what's going on. There's so many lead changes and so many moves being made in a race with a field this large. It's tough to keep everybody straight, and he helps do that for us. We're coming up at the halfway point here at the 200-meter mark. And they're not setting the world on fire time-wise, but that's not what it's about. It's a championship. Times and results and distances are not important. It's the win, and they're looking just to be under 31-minute pace at this point, thanks in large part to Miles Richter picking up the pace about 4 laps ago.
That through 5,000 meters, 15:28, that pace. So they are on track for just sub 31 minutes. This is where you would like to see someone like either Yacine Abdallah. He'll probably sit and wait a little bit, but perhaps Bradley McIntyre pushes the field just a little bit to try to quicken things, because if you run the risk, or what you run the risk of doing if you kind of stay stagnant at this pace, is just leaving so many people in the field that will potentially steal points away from you or steer, kind of keep things bunched up, and you're going to have to navigate around as you get to the latter part of the race, as they're now into the second 5,000 meters, and it has been all Arkansas up front between Karami Yago and Miles Richter.
Eric Casares of A&M has definitely been in and is staying in the mix as he moves into third.
And Coach Pat Henry felt really good about the experience that Eric Casares brings in. He said he's just got to show up at the big race, and felt like that this was an opportunity certainly for him to do that, and proving that as he has kind of mixed up a bit of the early domination. And now we're starting to see Victor Kiprop get a little bit antsy, moving up kind of on the outside there of lane 1 with the white jersey and then the Crimson Tide red in his shorts.
Finish up on Casares, who's definitely in the mix, a 9-time SEC scorer for Coach Pat Henry, so he is in the mix in these longer races, both indoors and outdoors for the Aggies.
And really efficient in his stride and how he runs, and is really nimble in navigating packs in crowded fields like you have right here. You feel like this is, for Arkansas, much like you have tended to see in the longer distance events, kind of treating it like that cross-country pack mentality. They have dictated this field, forced everyone else to go with him. A lot of these guys do have really strong kicks, but Victor Kiprop, keep in mind, has sub 4-minute mile speed, so he is one who can allow the race to come to him. Yacine Abdallah also has a great kick as well. He was part of a DMR national championship when he competed previously at the University of Texas.
Things bunching up a little bit again, but it's all Arkansas up front, 4 of the top 5.
When we talk about this, has been such a familiar cast of characters now as they go through 6K at 18:31. Yacine Abdallah has been in the mix at a lot of championship races, not only NCAA's, noting what he did at the DMR previously in his career when he was with the University of Texas, but SEC's. That conference title at this championship has eluded him. He's been runner-up a number of different times, and Sean Carlson said Yacine really wants to win an SEC title before he is done with his career in Knoxville.
Yassine Abdallah keeps moving up now into the top 7. Staying on the outside, trying to stay out of trouble, as is McIntyre, who's on the line between lane 1 and 2. And Richter is starting to tire. You can tell by the way his head is starting to bob a little bit. His shoulders are twisting. He's been up there working it, picking up the pace from about the first 7 laps. It went very, very slowly.
73.7 for that last 400 meters, so right around 30:51 pace, which is very comfortable for this field. And you noted the positioning of Bradley McIntyre as you see him going down the backstretch. He's a little buried right now by the Arkansas Razorbacks, but has on the black jersey, black singlet, and black shorts. And Coach Brock Moreau said a day like today really could be special for Bradley if he puts himself in the mix at the halfway point. Well, hey, we're past the halfway point, and he is more than in the mix of what this field has done to this point. So it's been a really great run so far for him. Now he just has to stick with it, be able to hang with the field and gauge that point. If he's going to start to make a move, select the right point to do it and push this pace just a little bit. You mentioned, Miles Richter has been there up front for the majority of it. Now we're seeing McIntyre. Maybe he's going to slide in, get on the rail before we get to this next lap.
Now Richter's done his job. You can tell he is suffering as McIntyre takes over the leading duties. Casares is right there. Yago is there with Kiprop and Shearer. And stalking is Abdallah and Alabama's Kiprop.
We talked about Yassine Abdallah. You're also seeing his teammate kind of right there in that top 8. Now in this shot, you can really see him there. Hip number 11, that's the freshman for UT. Dean Casey ran 28:39 at the Raleigh Relays earlier this season. He was 11th at the SEC Cross Country Championships this fall. In talking with Sean Carlson, he said, yeah, we're starting to get a stable together of distance runners, with the leadership there in Knoxville, and of course head coach Dwayne Ross, and then Sean Carlson leading the distance program.
Now Patrick Kiprop pops into the lead. He's been back in that 3rd, 4th position for almost the entire race. Now he decides to lead. And here comes his teammate Yago. And a big move by Victor Kiprop of Alabama. 7 laps remaining, and things are starting to change as Patrick Kiprop, I should say, leads Victor Kiprop, and it's definitely picking up the pace, trying to throw in a fast lap or 2 to see who is really going to stay in it.
That pace 2 seconds faster on the most recent 400. They went from 73.3 to 71.1 thanks to that big surge by Patrick Kiprop, with Victor Kiprop hanging right in there. Of course, worth noting, Victor Kiprop has won back-to-back. From our research we found, we have not seen anyone win 3 straight SEC men's 10,000 meter titles.
Quite a gap that has been developed now between the 2 Kiprops and 3rd place, which includes a couple of Razorbacks in that top 6, but they're starting to drop off with this pace. 6 laps remaining.
Worth noting, in that chase pack is Dennis Kipruto of Alabama. And Dan Waters said that this needs to be a really special event for them to put themselves in position. 64.4. All right, we're seeing some 60s now, shaking things up at this point of the race. This is going to basically, come down to a 1,200 meter or so kick from the top 2 in this field, and you're seeing them right there up front. Immense respect between these 2 athletes. We've seen them go head-to-head so frequently. There's Yassine Abdallah leading the chase pack with Dennis Kipruto and Karami Yago in tow.
Patrick Kiprop just hammering this pace, and Victor Kiprop drafting behind him.
They're so acutely aware. You could see they glanced up as you saw them look to their left. That is because there's a large video board right there where Patrick Kiprop could gauge exactly how Victor had positioned himself. Really consistent now, 65 seconds for that last 400 meters through 8K at 24:19. In talking with Arkansas coach Chris Bucknam, he said, we'll just see how guys feel. We want this race to be really organic in how it plays out. And Patrick Kiprop can run in so many different ways, and he has such a good feel for races, especially at the championship level, that he bided his time, waited for that opportunity to kind of break it open and force someone to go with him. He is certainly not fazed by that being Victor Kiprop and letting kind of this race come to him. He's very aware of that closing kick that Victor has as well.
Less than a mile to go, 4 laps remaining. Patrick Kiprop of Arkansas continuing to hammer the pace, and Victor Kiprop of Alabama not being fazed by it, drafting off of his opponent. And Arkansas dropping down in the standings so far.
Sub 65 on that last 400. They've been really consistent these last 3 laps, 64.4, 65, 64.9.
Caraniego is way back in 6th place.
That's where this foot injury is likely, catching up to him a bit. He is, though, always a fighter and certainly going to put himself out there, do as much as he can. He does have a really good kick that he can draw on, so would not surprise me to see him catch a few spots as they close.
Now 3 laps remain. And they're on pace now to be under 30 minutes with another 6, and now a 64.1, the fastest 400 laps so far.
And when you talk about speed, keep in mind Victor Kiprop has that 356 mile speed in his arsenal. When he is on his game, he certainly has the turnover to crank it up when called upon, and that's likely what this race is going to take. Alabama needs a special performance, not just from him, but from the teammates who he has in here to position themselves for that team title through 9,000 meters at 27 flat now, thanks to that 64.1 that you noted on that last 400, Dwight.
Caraniego now into 3rd place, so helping Arkansas, 4th place, I should say. Yassine Abdallah, a big gap to try to make up on these two. These are the 2 guys that are making it happen. 2 laps remaining now, less than a half mile. And Patrick Kiprop of Arkansas continues to lead over Victor Kiprop of Alabama. But in this case, like most cases, it's much better to be the hunter than be the hunted.
They've settled ever so slightly, 65.5 that last lap, so a little bit more than a second slower as they're trying to kind of gear up for that final push. Now they're also going to have to navigate traffic, lapping a few of the athletes in the field as they go around the turn there.
That's Austin Popplewell, who was well up in the lead pack for the first half of the race. Now Victor Kiprop deciding to make the move with a little more than 500 meters remaining and reversing the roles. Patrick Kiprop covers the move after hammering away for the last 6 laps with 400-meter tours of the track right around 65 seconds. Here comes the bell. Kiprop versus Kiprop, and the turnover for Victor Kiprop, the 2-time defending champion, is superior to Patrick Kiprop. He does not have an answer for that move. The 2-time defending champion going for the 3-peat, and 10 points for his Alabama team. He laps Miles Richter, who is the one that started quickening the pace on behalf of the Arkansas Razorbacks. He is spent. Victor Kiprop coming around for the final 100 meters. He is going to be a 3-time SEC 10,000 meter champion. But despite a great effort by Patrick Kiprop of Arkansas to take the kick out of him. So let's see who is going to be third.
Looks like a big kick from Yassin Abdallah right here.
It will be Yassin Abdallah of Tennessee ending up third. Diego was fourth, but he was closer to scoring than that, but he does get fourth. So second and fourth for Arkansas. That doesn't hurt. 60.5 last lap for the champion, 3-time champion, Victor Kiprop.
Looks like Dennis Kipruto of Alabama, the most recent finisher there.
So Alabama had multiple scorers in this 10,000. First and fourth for the Crimson Tide. So 15 points for them in this 10,000 meters. That will certainly help in their long shot chance of winning the team title. Pretty much everything has to go right for them. So just about 6 laps to go, and Patrick Kiprop and the red or the crimson of Arkansas was hammering the pace. Well, this is the last 500 meters. At that point, Victor Kiprop, he made the move.
He revved that engine, already a winner of the distance Triple Crown, and he is now a triple 10K champion at the SEC Championships, all thanks to a huge closing kick over the last 600 meters, revved that engine at exactly the right time, played it out so tactically, so casual, just had to make sure to stop the watch as you cross the line.
So here are the final results. The top 8 score, remember. So Alabama with first and fourth, that gets them 15 points. Arkansas with Patrick Kiprop in second, and Jacob McLeod of Arkansas in seventh. So only 10 points for Arkansas in that 10,000, and they had a raft of points in position with less than half the race to go. That Patrick Kiprop move to draw the kick out really took a toll on that Arkansas group. But it was Victor Kiprop, 3 times now the 10,000 meter champion at the SEC level, and he is downstairs talking with Fernando.
Thanks so much, Dwight. I'm just telling Victor, we're going to talk strategy, right? So you guys broke with about 7 laps to go. Was that the plan for you?
No, my plan, it was like the last 3 laps, I may like drop around 62s. Yeah, because I know most of these guys know, they don't know like Angan on like space of 62. So that was my strategy.
So you guys went about 64 in the last 3 laps. Does that kind of set you back?
Yeah, but I didn't expect that. Yeah.
25 laps in the 10,000 meters. You only led 1 full lap of it, right? The last one is the one that counts.
Yeah, almost 3 laps. It counts a lot. Yeah.
So I talked to Coach Waters before, and he said, you know, there's a lot of pride in Alabama track team that you guys are dominating this race for the past couple of years. You're the first ever 3-time winner of the SEC's 10,000 meters at the championships. What does that mean for you?
It's mean a lot because my event mostly I depend on 10K. Yeah, so I normally work on 10K.
You're going to double tonight, right? Or not tonight, but at the meet.
Yeah, I will double. Yeah.
We'll see you again?
I will double because I'm just looking for speed. Yeah.
All right, we're going to see him again, Dwight.
All right, Fernando. Yeah, he's dropping down, way down to 5,000 for some speed work, Laura.
He's just looking for speed. That's all. Why not, right?
Character dignity. Hey, Namalada. விளையாட போகிற கேம் பேர் ஆதரவு. விட்டு தொலைக்கலாம். நான் சொல்லிட்டேன்னா
என்ன சொன்ன
விளையாட போகிற கேம் ஃப்ரீ ஃபயர்.